Welcome to Ballybunion YXQ Internet Radio Station, home to Danny Houlihan's Irish Experience podcast. Join Danny and his friends to explore the rich hidden history of the longest coastal driving route in the world, the Wild Atlantic Way. Experience the Irish landscape, its people and its culture, all interwoven into a story that will simply take your breath away. You are tuned in to Ballybunion YXQ Internet Radio Frequency. Now, please welcome your host, Danny Houlihan.
Couldn't fáilte go dtí slíonmhar na Seanna. Welcome to the Shannon Estuary Way and Danny Houlihan's Irish Experience Show. Our studio Ballybunion, when on the Seanna Cúnda Círí, from the banks of the grassy Shannon River in County Clare, Ireland. It has been related to me recently that our series is rated very highly on the international system and well respected, dealing with deep dives into local history. I'm very happy about this, it's great news. But as I always state, if you are walking, jogging, hang gliding or even fishing while listening to my podcast series, please take care. In this journey, I travelled back once more to Cúnda Clare, County Clare, Ireland, and I take up from where we left off at the beautiful village of Knock, County Clare, and travel onwards towards another historical place called Labasheeda, the Silken Bed. Leaving behind the beautiful village of Knock and that lovely cup of coffee at Rosie's and the local people who afforded me hospitality, we went onwards into the heartland of County Clare. The day improved and the mist lifted as I journeyed into the historical landscape of County Clare. Now everyone, I do like to do a deep dive. For those who have been following my series, you know that. And the places and the people who recorded these places have a part in the culture and must not be forgotten. That's why, everyone, I cite and quote them in my experiences, because they are gone now and they still deserve to be mentioned. This is episode 1 of 2 from Labasheeda, because due to time constraints for the podcast series, I normally like to keep them to around the 20 minutes, but as you know, for those of you who have been following my time here, that sometimes they can get longer. My main objective is for these podcasts is those who are walking, jogging, cycling, even going to school in the car, you will be able to listen to the show and under no pressure. So before we go into a deep dive, relax, a bit of music first, and then we'll go back and join our new series, Labasheeda County Clare. A nice bit of music there to open our show on Lebasheeda County Clare. Now we go back in time to 1845, and the Parliamentary Gazetteer of Ireland in 1845. For Labasheeda, just a brief look and a look back at its history and its past. Quote, Labasheeda, a village and a bay in the parish of Kilafin, barony of Clondallow, County Clare, Munster. The village stands at the head of the bay, 2.25 miles southeast of Kilmurray-McMahon and 4.5 southwest of Kildysart. It contains a Roman Catholic chapel and has in its vicinity the seats of Cloonkerry and Ballybunion and the ruins of the Church of Kilafin. It goes on to state, the bay is an indentation of the estuary of the Shannon, measuring 1.25 mile across the entrance and penetrating the land northwestward to the extent of 3.5 furlongs. The area of the village at that time was 26 acres. Population in 1831, 446. In 1841, 606. Houses were 108. Families employed chiefly in agriculture, 45. In the manufactures and trades, 77. In other pursuits, 8. Families dependent chiefly on property and professions, 3. On the directing of labour, 65. On their own manual labour, 61. On means not specified, 1. Now, like all other time frames I have dealt with in the past during our podcast series, the time of the Great Irish Famine or Irish Holocaust, the number of people in those particular areas do fluctuate, and some of those figures are not actually right. So we just keep that open to question. I always stress that during my series. Another historian I always quote is the late Samuel Lewis, and again he visits Labasheeda, and it's worth looking at what Samuel Lewis recorded when he visited that area in 1837. Labasheeda, or Pound Street, a village in the parish of Kilafin, barony of Clondallow, county of Clare, and province of Munster, 4 miles southwest of Kildysart on the lower road to Kilrush, containing 93 houses and 466 inhabitants. From its situation on the Shannon, a considerable quantity of corn is brought hither in winter and sent in boats to Limerick. Cullen, obtained in the vicinity, is also sent hence to Limerick, Ennis and other places. The erection of a small pier and quay would be of great advantage to trade. There is a ferry across the Shannon to Tarbert, and a court for Lord Egremont Manor of Clondallow is occasionally held by the Shanskal for the recovery of small debts. And the constabulary force is situated in the village. Near it, a large Roman Catholic chapel, a handsome cruciform building has been lately erected. Unquote. It should be noted in this report by Lewis that at that stage there was no pier erected at Labasheeda, according to this report. Lewis goes on, quote, Kilofin, a parish in the barony of Clondallow, County Clare, and the province of Munster, 7 miles southwest from Kildysart on the River Shannon, containing 4,073 inhabitants. It comprises of 3,948 statute acres, as is almost entirely under tillage, yielding abundant crops. There is some bog, and in several places of the parish are indentations of coal, and Cullen is obtained at Slieve Dooley and Cloonkerry. The southwestern part of the parish consists of a peninsula projecting into the Shannon and forming the southeast side of Clondallow Bay. On Kilkieran Point, at its extremity, is a battery mounting 6 24-pounders and 2 howitzers, with a bomb-proof barracks for a detachment of artillerymen. The principal seats are Ballyartney, the residence of R. Barclay Esquire, Cloonkerry of T. Lloyd Esquire, and Kilkieran Lodge, the property of T. Spate Esquire. It is a vicarage in the Diocese of Killaloe, forming part of the Union of Kilmurray Clondallow. The rectory is in propriety in Biden Scott Esquire. The tithes amount to 284, of which £160 is payable to the impropriator and 124 to the vicar. In the Roman Catholic divisions, it is also part of the Union of the District of Kilmurray Clondallow and has a handsome cruciform chapel near Labasheeda. There are 6 private schools in which about 420 children are educated. Some remains of the parish church still exist, the burial ground of which is still used. At Kilkieran are the ruins of a small church with a burial ground, which is only used for the interment of children. And at Killanna are the ruins of an ancient building, supposed to have been a monastery. In Mill Park is a Shallybeat spring, unquote. Some very interesting insights there by Samuel Lewis at that time. I always include Samuel Lewis in my podcast series because he always adds that bit extra to all the episodes, and I always include him in that, and he's worth remembering because he was there at that time, and we must remember the past. As a matter of interest now, we will look through some of the old school records. The location, Lebasheeda County Clare, and the teacher, Sean O'Cruelake, the teacher of the time. He quotes, "Labasheeda is a picturesque little village overlooking a fine bay from which it gets its name, and is on the right bank of the River Shannon. The bay is known as Labasheeda Bay. The name is derived from the Irish word laba, or labard, which signifies a bed, and sheeda, which signifies silk. Labasheeda, the silken bed." He goes on, quote, "The bay affords good anchorage for ships plying to and from Limerick, and on this account it got its name Labasheeda, silken bed, which has been corrupted to Labasheeda." Now, going from hard history from the past to a local story how Labasheeda got its name, which this is fascinating. The story relates the following. 3 English ships were on their way to Limerick with merchandise, and as they were passing by Labasheeda, a fierce storm broke out on them. One of the ships took shelter in the bay, and the others continued on their course. They were buffeted about in the storm, and eventually they were forced to anchor in one of the bays further up the river. They had a very poor anchorage, and before the storm spent itself, great damage was done to their masts and rigging. After the storm, the ship that had taken shelter in Labasheeda Bay continued on its way to Limerick. Very soon the captain spied the other 2 ships lying up, anchor, unable to proceed. He altered his course and came to their assistance. He expressed surprise that the storm should have done them such damage. And when they questioned him on how he managed to escape, he replied, "Oh, I slept as soundly all through the storm as if I were in a bed of silk," unquote. History relates, after this statement, the scenic bay was known forevermore as Labasheeda Bay. Now, a short poem about the area of County Clare which I find very interesting. Let Wordsworth sing of Duddon stream and Southey Outladore. In verses sweet, they ne'er compete with our sweet Shannon shore. o'er purling rills and mist-robed hills, with many a bank and brae. There's not the like from Tweed to Fort, from Solway to the Tay. From Quantocks and the Mendip range, you mark a prospect fair. But I'd rather see old Shannon glide by the cliffs and banks of Clare. Through fields so green and each boreen, where the yellow gorse doth blow, and far and wide stems on the tide, in the grand and ceaseless flow. There yonder lies Bunratty towers, there Labasheeda's bay, on every isle some saintly pile, once famed in sacred lay. Thus gracefully bending to ocean wending, to take her toil-worn rest, then with the sun, her day's work done, sinks to the golden west. May strife thus end, and these waters blend, in union blessed from above. Come happier days and peaceful ways to the island of our love. A visit to Labasheeda is not the same without a mention of one of its most famous sons, a musician. I'm a musician myself. This man was by the name of Dan Fury, who was born in England on the 12th of September 1909. His father was from Loughisle, and Labasheeda, his late mother, was English of Scottish origin. Dan was an accomplished Irish dance teacher and a famous fiddle player. Dan Fury held classes in the 1930s in the area for set dancing, céilí and step dancing in the local vicinity. Then his reputation spread like most musicians, and he taught his art to the West Clare area. He travelled not by modern transport at that time, but then by a bicycle, a testament to one great musician. A common theme in Irish primary schools back then was to invite local musicians in to teach their art to music, which Dan did. And again, his reputation as a fiddle player and a dance teacher spread around the countryside. Sadly, this has all but died out in certain areas in Ireland, where now music teachers and dance instructors are on a panel and brought in, and sometimes not from the area, thus the loss of our local touch to our music, song and dance. However, people who knew Dan were lucky, like myself, my old teacher Jimmy Fitzgerald here in Ballybunion, and thanks to them, our music and our culture is preserved. Dan also was invited, it has been related to me, that during a certain period to give lessons in the United States of America and England, again a testament to his great art. Now I have been related in a particular text by a friend who handed this in to me, quote, in 1993, sadly, he fell ill and was hospitalised in Ennis General Hospital. While in hospital, it has been said that Dan drove the doctors and nursing staffs off their heads, continuing to dance in bed. Well, you can't keep a good man down, they say. Sadly, Dan Fury died on the 7th of August 1993 at the ripe old age of 83. May he rest in peace. It should be noted that Dan is buried in Kilofin Cemetery, not far away from Labasheeda. To honour the man, each year in Labasheeda there is the Dan Fury Weekend of music and dance in honour of that great man's memory. In fact, I must get a chance to get up there myself with my pipes maybe this year if I get a chance. Anyway, we move on. In modern times, Labasheeda has many activities for visitors and locals alike. My first impressions on this stunning place, apart from its natural beauty, oh, everyone is a beautiful spot, was the many directional signs and information boards for locals and visitors alike. You will not get lost here. It's absolutely fabulous and well worth photographing these. These are historical sites. There is a glamping area called Beds of Silk, so you can stay here in the area. And as I've said, there are many other amenities in the area on offer, so check it out. If you're a cyclist travelling into this place, there is at the junction of the road a pit stop for bikes. a place to pump up your bike, and there are tools there to mend your bike. Even inflate your bike, there is even a hand pump. There's another information panel there with the sights of Labasheeda. I go on just to mention a few. I note this is on the Labasheeda cycle routes, Shannon Estuary Way. I stopped off at the pier in Labasheeda, and I have to say it's absolutely very well maintained, and the facility for visitors is second to none. There's a toilet area there and a resting area, and other amenities are there. When I was at the pier, there was a camper van parked, enjoying the views of the scenic area of Labasheeda. The tide was out, but the sound of the estuary could be heard in the distance. Boats were tied up. Oh, it's a scenic place. The pier is well protected with a fine barrier, with boats tied up, as I said, and the area is adorned with historical information panels, which, if you visit the area, will be of interest to you. I will include just a taste for you now, as we are here in Clare. One unique story there is that of the Azina. The Azina, which was a wooden smack, built in Jersey in the year of 1896. She weighed 20 tons. Quote from the panel: John Davis bought the boat in the year of 1920 and used it for transporting cargo such as fertilizer, feedstuffs, coal, machinery, timber, groceries, butter, etc. Unquote. He goes on to quote, when necessary, the owners brought the tarred canvas sails into the parochial hall to be repaired by hand. That would be hand stitching. The Azina plied the waters between Labasheeda and Limerick up to 1952, and it was the last wind-driven riverboat used in Ireland. Now, this is special. The last wind-driven boat used in Ireland. Another stone plaque on the quay is there in memory to those who died during the Great Irish Famine or Irish Holocaust, and those, quote, who were forced to emigrate, placed in location in May 2013. Another plaque mentions the fallen soldiers of the old Irish Republican Army who took on the might of the British Army in the local area of Labasheeda and County Clare. Now everyone, it's time to pack our bags, get back in the car and head for the ferry once more. And I'll be back to Labasheeda again in the future, because again, this is just a small snapshot of the particular area of County Clare. I hope you've enjoyed our little visit to Labasheeda and a small insight into this very, very special place. And also the famous music festival that's carried out there every year by the locals honouring Dan Fury. It's well worth a visit. So, for myself and my production team, which went out there across the Shannon to County Clare, I say slán, we'll see you again. One last note before I leave, a big shout out to my old friend over there in Texas, Bruce Moriarty and his wife Cindy, who are backing our podcast series from across the pond in the USA. Best of luck, guys, from Danny here in Ireland.
Thanks for listening to our show. Through its people, its heritage, and its rugged coastline, this is truly Danny Houlihan's Irish experience. Bye for now.